Okay, I want to finish Parshas Toldos today. So I want to go to, I'm telling you, one of the most absolutely, what I consider personally phenomenal ideas that I've ever seen in Chumash, which Rav Hirsch says. But let's pick it up where, on page 132, Perek Chaf Vav, Pasuk Lamed Daled. Perek Chaf Vav, Pasuk Lamed Daled. So it's on page 132, 4 lines from the bottom. So it says like this. Vayhi Esav ben Arbaim Shana, Esav is 40 years old. Vayikach Isha es Yehudis bas Be'eri Hachiti. Ves Basmas Baselon Hachiti. He takes 2 wives, Yehudis and Basmas. Vatiyena Moras Ruach LeYitzchak and LeRivka. They cause a lot of aggravation for Yitzchak and Rivka. Now, if you take a look at Rashi here, Rashi on the left column, 3 lines from the top. Ben Arbaim Shana, he's 40 years old. Esav haya nimshal lechazir. Esav is compared to a pig. Shenemar yichar semenu chazir miyar. Quotes the pasuk from Tehillim. Why? Hachazir azek shu shochev, when a pig is lying down, poshet tlafov, he stretches out his hooves. Lomar ru'u she'ani tohar. Look, I'm kosher, because the pig is the only animal that has split hooves but does not chew its cud. There are 3 animals that chew their cud and don't have split hooves: a camel and 2 types of a hare and a rabbit, or whatever, or 2 types of rabbit type family. I don't know whether we know exactly what they are. The camel chews its cud but does not have split hooves, and these 2 rabbits of some sort. And the only one that has the opposite is the chazer. He's got split hooves, but he does not chew his cud. All other non-kosher animals have neither. Those are the only ones that have even one. So he says the chazer shows you the external symbol. Mm-hmm. Externally, he shows you he's kosher, and inside he's no good. Inside, that's Esav. Esav is that external false, hi, have a nice day. Right? You know, when they package you, when they package you go to the supermarket in America, oh, have a nice day, and they put the thing like she cares about my nice day. Like yeah, have a nice day. So I remember when I was in Columbus, my wife's from Columbus. I was in the freezing winter in Columbus with the Midwest blizzard, and I was driving my father-in-law's car, and I skidded on the street. I was on a side street, and I skidded, and I tried to brake. And the car skidded, and I ended up perpendicular to the street. The front wheels were like facing the sidewalk, and I couldn't get the car out, you know. And it was just, you know, because I was kind of in the ridge over there, and I couldn't get the car out. And all these other cars are driving past. Not one of them stopped to help me. They're all, have a nice day. And not one of them. In Israel, if that would happen to you in Israel, I mean, we don't get a blizzard like that. But if you start, the first car would stop. Then the second car was have a fight with the first guy to see who's going to help you. They would start arguing who's going to say, I was here first, I'm helping now, I help. There would be a fight over who could help you. That's the difference. That's the difference. So Esav is compared to a chazer. Okay? So he said, Re'u shani tohar. Kach elu gozlim v'chomsim. They steal and they rob. Umarim atzvam ksherim. And then they show themselves as being kosher. And Rashi goes on to say all 40 years Esav was violating various women. And also when he's 40 years old, I'm going to get married because my father got married when he was 40. I say I'm a tzaddik like my father. And not only that, I noticed myself that could be part of why their names. Yehudis sounds like, ooh, you know, the Jew got Hashem's name in there. Ooh, what a nice wife. And the other one is Basmas. Basmas means like a fragrance. So even the wives, there's an external falsity over here. And then it says, they caused bitterness to Yitzchak and Rivka. What did they do? Says Rashi, because they were worshiping idols. Says Rashi, the Yitzchak and Rivka, shehoyu ovdos avodazar. They're worshiping idols. Okay, so one of the lessons here, a very important lesson is, one of the Mefarshim says, why does it put Yitzchak before Rivka here? And the answer is, one of the Mefarshim says that Yitzchak suffered from this more than Rivka did. Why? Why? Because Rivka, what's that?
He's never seen it before.
Correct. Yitzchak was raised by Avram and Sarah. Rivka was in a house with Besul, Lavan. There are a bunch of idol worshippers over there. So it didn't affect her as badly as Yitzchak was really, he was really thrown. He was just, I mean, it's like a kid from Bnei Brak walking the streets of L.A. and seeing people doing drugs, and a kid from L.A. walking the streets of L.A., and seeing people doing drugs. Even if he doesn't do it himself, as unlikely as that may be, but he's not going to be anywhere near as rattled as the person who's never seen it before and is absolutely shocked, even if he even figures out what it is. So now, what's really Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky was a big who was a Navardiker. He was from the Navardic yeshiva system. So he has a very penetrating insight here. How old was Rivka when she left home, according to the Medrash? 3 years old. How many years have elapsed? How old is she at this point? 60. Right? Yaakov and Esav are 60 years old at this point. Right? Sorry. Why 60? Esav is 40. Right. And she was 20. Esav is 40 years old. She was 20 when she had them. They were married 20 years when she had Esav. She's 60. See, 60 years have elapsed. She was home for 3 years. And still what she saw when up till 3 years old, 60 years later has an effect on her. It still has an effect that reduces. The point is not Yitzchak and Rivka. In all these situations, the point is not them. The point is what that tells us. What that tells us is things that we've seen and things that you experience, it could take you a very long time to get, it could still have an effect on you. That's why it's important to detach from certain things totally. And sometimes something that, and it's very powerful, things that we've seen in our life, that, what do they call PTSD now? What is it?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Post what?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Big kids are being rattled, right? And what do you call it? Yeah, and because there are all sorts of letters. I think there's somebody who's a LC.
LSD?
No. That's the Beatles. What do you call it? The LCSW, like a licensed clinical social worker, right? There are a lot of letters nowadays. Everything, a lot of letters. What do you call? You got to work it out. So even PTSD, which is not nowadays, it's not right now. It's quite prevalent because there are a lot of kids. They're shocking what's going on in Israel now. There are kids who won't take showers in Israel. Kids won't take showers because they're nervous. What if a siren goes off while they're in the shower? There are teenagers who won't sleep in their own room. They insist on sleeping in their parents' room. I'm involved with an organization. I know that's where I was in America with this organization that's involved in therapy and counseling. It's the amount of therapy cases now is astonishing. So there is something to it. But in general, our experiences in life, it stays with us for a long time. Do you know they say Rav Scheinberg, Zatzal, was one of the Gedolei Ador. So Rav Scheinberg once made a l'chaim. So he said, why is he making a l'chaim? He said, because the Yankees lost, and it didn't bother him. It finally didn't bother him that the Yankees lost. He was an American kid who became one of the Gedolei Ador. And finally, when he was in his 70s or 80s, he heard that the Yankees lost, and it didn't bother him. That means that it's something that you experience it. It stays with you. And therefore, it's important for a person to have the right experiences in life. What are you laughing at? I'm telling you, it's a famous story about Rav Scheinberg. He said, when I was a kid, I was a good pitcher. They called me Lefty Scheinberg. Right? It stays with you. So that's okay if it's only sports. It's not the end of the world. But there are a lot of experiences people have in life that takes a long time. A guy once said to me, we're learning in Gittin. The guy wants to be Mevatel again. I think it was one in Gittin. Bittel. You want to be Mevatel again. So a guy once said to me, Rabbi, is it possible to do bittel on past relationships? Right? Can you just do bittel? Right? And which is something we'd like to do is hit a delete button and knock out a lot of nonsense. So it's not so simple. It's not so simple to get rid of past experiences and past thoughts. And the only way one can do it is the more Torah, when you put Torah in your mind, the more Torah you put into your mind, every piece of Torah you put in, you knock out a piece of nonsense. And every piece of nonsense you put in, you knock out a piece of Torah. Okay, now, here comes probably the most dramatic episode in Sefer Bereshis, right, other than Yosef beating his brothers. Vayiki zakein Yitzchak vatichena einav meros. We're going to go this pasuk by pasuk, gentlemen. Vayikra Esav beno agadol vayomer lov bini vayomer lov hineni. He calls him my son, a term of endearment. Here I am. I'm ready to do what you want. Vayomer hinena zakanti lo yadati yom mosi. I don't know when I'm going to die, because he was within the range of his 5 years of his mother's death. The Gemara says that when a person is within the range, 5 years, within the range of one of his parents' death, so a person should get nervous. And get nervous doesn't mean PTSD. And nervous means that a person should get what he called, get a little focused over here, because he's in a very, very dangerous zone. Ve'ata sanei kelecha talyecha v'kashtecha. Sharpen your what do you call it, your sword and your bow and your arrow. V'tzei asada v'tzuda litzai. Go out and hunt some food for me. Now the question here is, why has he got to go hunt? I mean, he's got goats. We see later he's got sheep, he's got goats. What's he got to go out and hunt? Dafka go out and hunt it? So one of the fortune here says that Yitzchak wanted to increase Esav's merits before he gives him the bracha. To go out and do the mitzvah, really invest yourself in this mitzvah. Go out and hunt it, and trap it and hunt it, and then bring it back to me and feed you. Ve'aseli matamim kasher ahavti. Make food that I enjoy. Ve'aviali ve'ochela bavur tevarechacha nafshi b'ter b'muz. Bring me the food so that I can give you a bracha before I die. Now, we're talking about Yitzchak Avinu. I mean, what he needs a good thick steak in order to give a bracha over here? And we're not talking about a yeshiva guy who's, who just finished Tisha B'Av, who just finished the 9 days, a yeshiva guy finished it. Okay, it's Chatzos on the 10th of Av, let's go. Yeshiva guys don't even wait for the animal to be slaughtered. Haven't had fleischiks for a week, look out, here we come. So what Yitzchak needs, the answer is that we recognize in Torah, and you notice that we do this on Shabbos, we do it on Yom Tov. It's not enough to be in a state of simcha intellectually. Intellectually, I appreciate what I'm doing, I appreciate serving God, and so on and so forth. There has to be physically and emotionally too. And when you have a good meal, it puts you in a certain state, in a physically and emotionally different state. So we understand. You sit at a Shabbos table. We can't go to the Shabbos. What would the Shabbos table look like if all they put out is some crackers and mayonnaise? What would the Shabbos table look like? Part of the festivity is the food. It's not only the food. It's not only about the food, but that's part of that's festive. Ein simcha ela b'basar v'yayin. That means that the Gedolei Ador, we don't need convincing, right? But Ein Simcha Basar, that means the Gedolei, Reb Moshe Feinstein had to eat meat and drink wine on Yom Tov. Reb Moshe Feinstein, because he's a human being. And when you eat the meat, it has an effect on you. And Yitzchak Avinu, this is going to add the emotional connection, the physical connection, along with the intellectual connection of the Simcha that he's in order to be able to give the bracha from a higher place. So he says, you have to go out, and I want you to get me the food. V'Rivka shomas b'davar Yitzchak Esav. Now Rivka heard. How did she hear? How did she hear this? We'll see. Vayelech Esav hasada lotzut tzai lavi. Now Rivka hears this. So there are two possibilities, because this is going to beg a bigger question. Don't you wonder about Rivka a little bit? What are you wondering about Rivka? What are you wondering over here? When you read the whole story, does something strike you right away? What do you wonder?
Why didn't she just approach Yitzchak
and tell him? Why do you have to go and deceive him? Why are you embarking on this whole deception over here? So there are several different approaches here. Why would Rivka do it? So one approach is that Rivka and Yitzchak had discussed it. And they have a machlokas here. Like Shammai and Hillel. There's a machlokas l'shem Shamayim. How do you understand Esav? And how do you deal with an Esav? Right? It means none of us are disagreeing about the facts. The question is, A, do you understand Esav? I think I got this insight into Esav. What I see is deception. Yitzchak may see as, but there's potential in spite of the deception. number one. And number two, even if we agree on that, then you also have to, you may have a disagreement on the treatment. How do you deal with it, assuming we agree with it? What do you do with an Esav? Distance an Esav, draw an Esav near? What do you do with him? You could have two doctors who agree on the diagnosis, but they disagree on the treatment. Sometimes they disagree on the diagnosis as well. But even if they agree on the diagnosis, doesn't mean they agree on the treatment. Number one. Number two, there's another approach over here. When it says Rivka heard that Yitzchak, what Yitzchak said, when you hear those words, what does it tell you? What do you mean she heard? How did Rivka hear? What you call snooping. We'll call it overhearing. Right? We're gentle with the women, even though women do have a habit of what you call snooping. Wives aren't. We won't call it snooping. A comedian once said, if a man had a camera to see what his wife does when he leaves the house in the morning, and she opens every drawer he's got to check what he's got hidden in there, she's looking through his stuff, and she's searching everything to see what kind of hidden contraband the husband has in his what do you call it? So I have one of my daughters. Women are curious. What you call snooping, we call curious. Women are insatiably curious. So what I did once was one of my daughters was insatiably curious, and so what I did was I took a note. I wrote something on the inside of the note. On the outside of the note, I wrote my son's name. Right? I wrote Yuda, important, and I just left it on my desk like this. And on the inside, it said my daughter's name. It said, "What are you doing looking at things that don't concern you?" Right? So I come walking home that night. She goes, and I left that on my desk. Very nice. I just left it kind of like that. I didn't put it like in a drawer. I just left it on my desk. And when I came up, she goes, "Daddy, you really got me today. You really got me." I looked at the note. And I knew she would. I was I was absolutely certain. So what do you call the? Oh yeah. So you know what I once did to her? I'm not proud of this. I'm not proud of this, and my wife didn't agree that it was right. But I'm telling you what I did. My daughter had gone through my stuff. She went into my room and she took some of the stuff, and it was not put back the way it should have been put back. And I'm very, very meticulous in my own daladamas with my desk. And she had gone looking for stuff, and she had needed something, and my stuff was not organized. I went into her room, and I basically dismantled her room. Right? I took her clothing out of the closet. I dumped it on the bed. I put everything. I absolutely dismantled her room. Right? And at first I was doing it, I was throwing it down. I said, "What am I throwing out? She's not here for." I just gently took it all, and I took all her shirts and her blouses. I just dumped it all over the room. I dismantled her room. And she took a look at it. And I said to her, "That's what I feel like when you mess my stuff up." And I got important documents, I got stuff like that. She never did it again. She never touched my stuff again. So my wife said it was a little too much. It was a little too much. Okay, that's a machlokes, Hillel and Shammai. But I never had to do it again. I never had to do it again. Okay, so there's a machlokes here. So you say she heard because she overheard. Others say it was prophecy. She heard through nevuah. Oh, if it was prophecy, that changes everything. Because if it's prophecy, I meant to hear this. I meant to hear this prophecy. That I meant to hear. If I have a prophecy that you have a private conversation, you have a private conversation, and I overhear it through prophecy, well, why is Hashem telling me what you're saying? He obviously wants me to do something about it. Oh, so what happens? V'Rivka shomas v'daber Yitzchak al Esav b'na, and Esav goes out. Now, Rivka Amrel Yaakov ben Alim. Rivka calls Yaakov. She says, "Hidei shamati es avicha medaber Esav achicha lemor. Havia li tzayid v'aseli matav v'ochela v'avrecha v'Hashem liftav." I heard your father say to Esav, "I'm going to give you a bracha. Get me some food." Now pay attention carefully. Pasuk ches. Pasuk tes. Ve'ata b'ni shma b'koli. Now obey me. La'asher ani mitzava osach. What I am commanding you. That's a very harsh terminology. Very tough language Rivka uses for Yaakov. I am commanding you. Why is she making it a command? Oh, it's got to be done, number one. Number two, right. Why does she think that Yaakov may be resistant to this? What?
Yaakov's a man of emes.
He's a man of emes. You're telling the man of emes, now go pull a deception. She knows her son, number 2. Number 3, what is Esav has one merit. There's one merit that Esav has that he's known for, which is what? Honoring the father. Yaakov has to have a merit that's going to offset that. Yaakov's got a lot of other merits. But this one merit of kibbud avim, he also needs that to offset Esav. So she turns it into a command from the mother. And not only it's a command from the mother, this is one of the reasons she does it this way. Because this will give Yaakov a test of honoring his mother in a very, very difficult way. This is an extremely difficult test for Yaakov. She says to him, Lechna elatzon v'kach l'misham shnei gidoi izim tovim v'esa samatam l'avicha gedoi. Go tell me, take 2 goats, and I'm going to make the food. And then, ve'vesa l'avicha v'achal bavor asher yivrecha lifnei moso. Yaakov protests. V'yomer Yaakov Elisha el Rivka emo. Hein Esav achi ish sayer. He's a hairy guy. V'anochi ish cholak. I'm smooth. How could this possibly work? Ula yemusheni avi. Maybe my father will touch me. He'll feel me. Ve'ayisi be'enav kimisatea. And he'll see that I'm mocking him. Ve'vesi alai klalo v'lo bracha. Now here comes the trouble. First of all, the Vilna Gaon says, if I tell you, if I say in English, I don't have the precise language. If I say to you, let's say we're planning a trip, and I say to you, what if it rains? What does that indicate? If I say, what if it rains? That means I want it to rain or not want it to rain? What if it rains is like, I'd rather it doesn't rain. If I say to you just, if it rains, like I'm almost hoping that it rains. If it rains. I don't have the right words in English. In Hebrew, to say if, there are 2 words. There's ulai, means if, what if, and pen, what if. But pen is a negative, like what if? Boy, I hope this doesn't happen, but what if? Ulai is almost the optimistic. What if it happens? Why would Yaakov say it in the pen? Why does the Yaakov say ulai in the positive and not in the negative? Why does he say ulai? Maybe my father will feel me. Why does he say pen, lest he feel me? You hear the problem. So Vilna Gaon says the fact that Yaakov said ulai is an indication of where Yaakov's holding here. He's actually hoping this doesn't work. He's hoping maybe, like, ulai, maybe he'll touch me and it won't work. That means Yaakov subconsciously, he doesn't want to be involved in this deception. He wants the deception not to work out. So he says ulai instead of pen. Now look what he says, and I'll get a klala, not a bracha. I'll get a curse and not a blessing. If this fails, so what's going to happen? You want me to go in and get a blessing? He's going to end up cursing me. And we're talking about eternity over here. I mean, if you're worried about you need the blessing, the curse is also going to be a gesunta curse if it comes from Yitzchak. So I don't want to get that curse. So look what Rich says. This is the most puzzling statement of all. Vatomer lo imo, alai kilalascha b'ni. I'll take the curse. Achshma b'koli v'lechal. You just obey me and go and do it. What do you mean, I'll take the curse? How can you take somebody else's curse? If Yaakov gets cursed, what's about? I called it. I called the curse. What do you call it? How can you call a curse? It's not shotgun. A shotgun. Oh, you called it. Yeah, okay, you got it. Yeah, listen, shotgun. I know there are halachas of shotgun, right? If you got to see it. The guy, you can't call it till you see the car. You got to be within Dalet Amos or something. You can't shotgun. My brother and I, we fought. I took his stuff. I tormented him. But if somebody called something, that was it. Game over. There was like a respect for calling it. I remember we were coming back from playing basketball. My brother, we're in the car. I'm driving. My younger brother also, he goes, I called the last 2 brownies. Oh, darn it. I wanted those brownies, right? And I called it. He called it. And once he called it, that was it. There was like an incredible respect for calling it, right? It's a remarkable thing. It wouldn't even cross my mind to mess him over on the brownies once he called it. That was it. He called it. That's it. I called it. So what does that mean? I call the klola? I call it? How can you call a klola? If Yitzchak curses Yaakov, how can Rivka say, I'll take it? What do you mean you'll take it? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you. It's like the guy was selling water. I bought watermelon here in Israel. A guy comes out in a watermelon truck, and he says to me, he's selling this watermelon. He says it's fresh water. He says, I take personal responsibility for it. Be'achrayut. Like there's a warranty on the watermelon if it's not good. When am I going to see the guy again? Sounds very dramatic, but what does it mean? What does it mean? How can you call the curse? What's going on here? Take a look at Unkelus. 3 lines there. Look if you find Unkelus, please show the person next to you. 3 lines to the top. Va'ameres le'imei. See that in Unkelus Pasuk Yud Gimel on page 136. Va'ameres le'imei. His mother said to him. Pay attention carefully. Alai is amar bin nevuah. I was told through prophecy, de lo yesun levatayach halach beri, that no curse will come to you, my son. I was told through prophecy. So when she says, I'll take the curse, she wasn't saying, I'll take the curse. She was saying, there won't be a curse. That's how Unkelus translates it. Which answers a bigger question, which goes back to what Avi was asking. So why do you have to resort to this deception? Why is it okay to resort to this deception? Why are you allowed to resort to this deception? It's a terrible thing. You're deceiving a blind old man? Does that bother you? How can you go and deceive him? So number 1, she got a prophecy that there won't be a curse. So obviously, this is what's supposed to happen, which begs another question: why does it have to be done this way? We'll talk about that in a second. But there's a famous story. A guy has a Judaica shop. A guy has a Judaica shop. Famous story. So he's in New York. He owns a Judaica shop. And one day a Puerto Rican walks in with got a bag of tefillin. He says, hey man, I found these. You want to buy them? He found them. Sure he found them. Found them in a shul. Where did he find them? He found the tefillin. And he purloined the pair of tefillin. So the guy looks in the pair of tefillin, and he says, well, listen, if I buy them, I got to see if they work first. Right? I'm not going to buy them if it doesn't work. So he takes the tefillin, he wraps it, he puts the other one around, he puts the other one on his head, and he looks in the back, he goes, hey, where's the one for the other arm? He goes, oh, I don't know, man, I don't know. He says, forget about it. I'll give you $10, that's it. It's not a full set, forget about it. So the guy takes $10 and he leaves. The guy looks, he sees inside, sees the phone and says, hey, Moshe, I got your tefillin over here. Was that a deception? Was that okay? Was that wrong to deceive him? Was it wrong to deceive the Puerto Rican? That wasn't wrong. What was right? You say you're saving the tefillin. You got to save the bracha over here. The bracha might go to the wrong person. There's sometimes a justified deception in life. Are you allowed to deceive your wife ever? Even if you are, don't. Theoretically, yes. You're allowed to veer off of the truth for the sake of shalom. I once asked Rav Weinbach this shit. Because the halacha is you're allowed to veer off the truth to make peace, right? So I asked him, are you allowed to do that to save your own neck in your own marriage? I don't see why not. Now, having said that, gentlemen, I seriously advise you, don't. Because what's going to happen is she's going to find out. They always do. Right? And a wife would rather you be honest about what you did wrong than try to deceive her and do something right. She doesn't like being deceived. They don't like being deceived. She's forgiving. They're very forgiving. Say, yes, I just gambled this entire month's salary away. Okay, they'll do it again next month, and she gives you a bowl of chicken soup. But if she only finds out the other one, then you're cooked. Right? Trust me, from personal experience, not from gambling. Right? And even, by the way, even if you win gambling, you come home with $10,000. I won $10,000 gambling. You didn't tell me you gambled. Right? Forget it. True or not true? Mayor laughs. It's 100% true. It's 100% true. So Rivka has a right over it. It's a prophecy. Oh, it's a prophecy that changes everything. But Yaakov is still nervous. So Yaakov goes and does what he says. Now look at the conversation between, she goes and she puts, Pasuk Tezvav, watch this. Vatikach Rivka as big the Esav b'na Godol achamudos asher itav abayis. She takes Esav's clothing. Vatalbeis as Yaakov b'na akata. She puts them on Yaakov's Veis oros gedaya izi mibisha. She puts the goat skins on his arms. V'alchelkas tzavarav, and on his neck. V'atiten es hamatami v'salachem v'rashalah. She gives him food, and he comes into his father. Now, the first question you should ask over here. I mean, there's a question every kid in Cheder asks the question. You know, as far as costumes go, you know, this is not the most elaborate costume in the world. You know, I mean, you know, you're wearing goat skins on your arm and he's around the neck. I mean, you're talking about Yitzhak Avinu over here. Yes, we're talking about a very sharp person, number one. And number two, I mean, what if Yitzhak touches him and it slides off? Like, oh, Esav, your arm just came off. You know. Or what if Yitzhak fakes high and he goes low and touches his stomach? I mean, you know, there are 1,000,001 possibilities. What is the real hope that this is going to succeed? Right? What are you really? Okay, we'll come back to that. Avi, hold for a few minutes. Vayova alev Avi, vayomer Avi. Tries to be as brief as possible. Father, voice recognition. Vayomer hineni mi ata b'ni. Here I am. Who are you, my son? Why is Yitzchak asking? Why is Yitzchak asking, who are you? He sent him out and he came in. So why is he asking? That means that Yitzchak himself sensed that something like this might happen. So he wanted to clarify it. Vayomer Yaakov Elovi vanochi Esav bechorecha. It is I, Esav, your firstborn. Now he didn't say, it is me, Esav. He said, it is I, Esav, your firstborn. That could be read in two ways. Right? Take a look at Rashi. Right column, 2 lines from the bottom. Anochi Esav bechorecha. Says Rashi. Anochi hu hamevi lach. It is I who am bringing you the food. The Esav hu bechorecha. Esav is your firstborn. That means he's saying, who are you? It is I, comma. Esav bechorecha. Esav, your firstborn. Oh, that's cute. Right? I tell you, like the kid who jumps into the hotel swimming pool. Right? Kid just jumps into the hotel swimming pool. The guard says, hey kid, can't you see the sign that says no swimming allowed? He says, it's not what it says. It says, no, swimming allowed. He learned Gemara. Who are you? Anochi Esav Achor. It is I, comma. Come on. Come on. It's like when they say to you in school, Avi, did you throw that airplane? No. I hurled it. Right? A big difference between throwing and hurling, right? Right? True or not true? Let's be honest. I understand. You're pulling a deception on a blind man. You're trying to steal a bracha over here. And all of a sudden, but I cannot tell a lie. George Washington, right? I cannot tell a lie. I chopped down the cherry tree. I cannot tell a lie. All of a sudden, now the answer is, in all circumstances, you may be allowed to lie. You may be allowed to veer off of the truth. But when you do the maximum you can to minimize it as much as possible, because doing it is potentially corrupting. When you veer off of the truth, even if you have to, it potentially corrupts the person. And therefore, even while doing it, try to veer off, try to minimize it as much as possible. So Yaakov says, okay. So Yitzchak says, I don't know what's going on here. You found that awfully quickly. He says, how do you do it? And Yaakov says, Vayomer pasuk chaf aleph ki hikra Hashem elokecha v'nai. Hashem has produced it. Hashem made it happen. So Yitzchak like, Hashem made it happen? Esav is mentioning Hashem? Esav got from all of a sudden? What happened? Esav all of a sudden, Baruch Hashem, bli neder, bli adhara. All of a sudden Esav's talking about Hashem? Something's not adding up. Vayomer Yitzchak el Yaakov gishona v'amushcha. Come here, I want to feel you. Hataza b'ni Esav imlo. Are you my son Esav or not? V'yigash Yaakov el Yitzchak ove emushel vayomer akol kol Yaakov v'yadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov. The hands are the hands of Esav. That means that Yitzchak himself understands, hey, there's something going on here. I don't know what's really happening, and it could go either way here. And then Yitzchak gives the bracha. He gives Yaakov a bracha. So that everybody asks, if he thought it was Esav, how could you get the bracha under the wrong circumstances just because he's blind? I'm trying to give a bracha to Esav. And it happens to be Yaakov sneaks in under my hands. What, he gets a bracha? A bracha is not a $20 bill. How can you sneak off with a bracha? So that's why the commentaries say that at this point, Yitzchak, one of the approaches, or we'll see another approach in a second, one of the approaches is that Yitzchak made up his mind, whoever this is gets the bracha right now. And I know at this point, I understand that whoever this is, this might not be who I think it is. And therefore, I am making up my mind right now that if somehow things moved and were manipulated in a way where this is the one that Hashem wants in front of me right now, he's the one who's getting the bracha. So he's making up his mind that Yaakov should get the bracha in spite of everything. Now, after he gives Yaakov the bracha, okay, he gives Yaakov, then Esav comes in. Now take a look at page 138. Okay, I'm going to show you absolutely phenomenal. So, Pasuk Lamed, 6 lines from the top. Vahi kasher kila Yitzchak levorches Yaakov. Yitzchak finishes giving Yaakov the bracha. Vahi ach yotza Yaakov meisvei. Yaakov leaves. Ve'esav achiv bamitzeda. Esav comes in. I think there's a medrash that Yaakov was hiding even behind the door. He opened the door, Yaakov was behind the door, Esav comes in, Yaakov sneaks out. Mamish one right after, missed him by a minute. Esav makes food. Get up, Dad, and eat. Who are you? How do you think Esav feels at that minute? At that moment, Esav hears Yitzchak saying, who are you? Why is my father asking me who I am? He sent me out to get him food, and I brought him food, and now he's asking me, who are you? He says, I came in and I said, here, Dad, I got food for you. And he says, who are you? Esav's no dummy. Esav already gets that feeling. You know that feeling when you hear that sound in your car? You're not sure, but you're already hearing that sound in the car, and you don't want to confirm the worst, but you're already getting nervous. You're already getting kind of that feeling. Esav, v'yamrani bincha b'chorcha Esav. Vayecherad Yitzchak charada gedola ad me'od. Yitzchak trembles. Vayomer, mi efa hu atzad side vayovi leocha mikol b'terem dova recheyu. So who was that who brought me the food? Gam baruch yeh, indeed he should be blessed. Now, I mean, if you're Esav, this is not what you want to hear. Because Esav realizes real quick what just took place. So now I'll tell you what Rav Hirsch says. Why was Yitzchak trembling? And why does Yitzchak then say, Gam baruch yeh? What's going on here? And why would such an attempt, what's the havamina, what's the hope that such an attempt to deceive Yitzchak with a flimsy concept could possibly work? So Rav Hirsch says, let's go back to Avi's question. Why didn't Yitzchak and Rivka talk about this? They did. And Rivka was saying to Yitzchak all along, Esav is deceiving you. He says, he's not deceiving me. He's a deceiver. He's not a deceiver. He's the deceiver. Okay. You know, the parents sometimes don't agree. Parents sometimes don't agree. So we could assume they were talking about it. So now we're at the moment of truth, because we're talking about a bracha coming from Yitzchak, which is a bracha for eternity. Rivka feels she has no choice. So what does she do? She dresses Yaakov up in what we would call a grade B costume, and she sends him in. As soon as Esav walks in, what does Yitzchak realize? He says, who are you? He says, I'm Esav. Vayecherad Yitzchak charada gedola. Yitzchak trembles. Because as soon as he says, I'm Esav, what does Yitzchak realize? Well, then the other guy was Yaakov. Yaakov, the straight son, deceived me with a flimsy costume. So what's Esav been doing to me all along? At this point, he realizes what's really going on. At this point, he realizes, you know what? I almost gave the wrong eternal bracha to the wrong son. That's why he gets trembling. He says, so who was that? Gam baruch yeh. I'm ratifying that bracha. Because I realized she was right all along. That means at the moment of truth, when Esav comes in, and Yitzchak hears that if that's Esav, that must have been Yaakov. And if that was Yaakov, and he deceived me with such a flimsy costume, and he's Yaakov, the straight son, so imagine what Esav has been doing to me all along. She's been right all along. And therefore he ratifies the bracha, and he gives Esav the bracha. He gives Yaakov the bracha at this point. That's how Rav Hirsch learns it. So there are many different approaches over here. There are different approaches, but it's a remarkable because it answers the question. I had that question. Rav Hirsch says, I think his terminology is, the purpose of the charade was the charade itself. In other words, the whole point of it was to show Yitzchak that he could be deceived. And because he could be deceived, if he could be deceived by Yaakov, certainly he could be deceived by Esav. That's what he says. Avi, what were we going to ask?
To answer the question, I was going to ask, why didn't Rivka just share the prophecy with Yitzchak?
Oh, there is an approach that says that Rivka felt, the Gemara says when a prophet got a prophecy, all other prophets got the prophecy as well, just that they're not allowed to say it. Only the prophet who received the prophecy is allowed to say it. But other prophets heard the same prophecy. That's what the Gemara says. All the prophets of a certain generation, in a generation where they're all Nevi'im, only one Navi heard it and was meant to say it. The other Nevi'im heard it. So Rivka, using keen Gemara logic, she says, Mimanavshach. If Yitzchak heard the prophecy, so I have nothing to say to him. He heard it. And if he didn't hear the prophecy, then this is a very unique situation where obviously Hashem didn't want him to hear the prophecy, so I'm certainly not going to tell him. So Mimanavshach, whatever happened here, if she got a prophecy, so then he got a prophecy. So he knows what's going on. He's just not allowed to say it, but she doesn't have to say it to him because he knows. And if he didn't get the prophecy that she got, so then obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted her to have it and him not to have it, so she certainly should go tell. So either way, you're covered. That's what happens when you're married to a guy who learns Gemara. You get the woman gets to think like a Gemara too. How do you like that?
And Yitzchak had to be deceived for his own personal art.
Oh, so why does Yitzchak have to be deceived? Now let's go back. Let's finish with this. Why does Yitzchak have to be deceived at all? So I'll tell you a very interesting idea. There's a pasuk that says, why does the whole story have to unfold this way? Why do you have to get Esav out of the way and let Yitzchak do the bracha? So there's a pasuk that says, Oz v'chedva bimkomo. There is strength and joy in Hashem's place. That means one of the highest levels of connection of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu is simcha. To serve Hashem out to do a mitzvah, b'simcha, to be happy to do a mitzvah, and to do a mitzvah because you got to do it, you can't compare to schar. If you're happy when you build a sukkah, if you're happy when you shake a little bit, and happy means you're happy to do the mitzvah. I told you, simcha does not mean putting a trampoline on a car and jumping up and down with a bottle of beer. That's not simcha. That's trampoline with a bottle of beer. Right? Simcha means energy, excitement about doing avodas Hashem. A person giving a bracha, why does Yitzchak eat before giving the bracha? He can give the bracha without eating, because eating is going to pick up his simcha level, right? Eating gives you, you're going to give it out, you're going to be in a heightened state. Any of you been in business? When you have a client, what do you do with a client? What do you do with a client when you're trying to sell a product? You take him out to lunch. Why do you take him out to lunch? What, he can't afford lunch? You take him to a good restaurant, the guy changes the mood. Especially if you get him a good bottle of wine, that'll certainly change the mood. But just eating and drinking puts you in a different mood. And you eat, you wine him and then dine him, right? You wine him and dine him and then you sell him. Right? If Yitzchak knows that Esav is no good, he'll give Yaakov the bracha. But by giving Yaakov the bracha, that'll decrease Yitzchak's state of simcha. It will be coming from a less of a source of potency. Yitzchak has to be in the ultimate state of simcha in order to give this bracha. And therefore, if he finds out what Esav is afterwards, that's fine. But at the moment that he's giving the bracha has to come from the highest form of the highest level of potency. And therefore, Yitzchak can't find out what Esav is, because a father who finds out he's got one good son, he's got one son who's no good, he's off the derech, whatever it is, that deflates the father. That means the bracha will be deflated. Therefore, Yitzchak has to give the bracha. That's what the Shem Mishbuel says. Shem Mishbuel says that Yitzchak has to give the bracha, and he has to be deceived in order that the bracha will come with the maximum potency. And therefore, he has to be deceived. All right, tomorrow we'll start by Yitzchak.